Welcome. Let's see. We're going to do our test as always. Make sure the audio is working. If you're just joining us, excuse me. If you're just joining us, thank you. You're currently seeing the recording, but in a moment, I'm going to turn this stream from unlisted to public. Let's give it a second. I just want to make sure I test out the audio. 1 a.m. stream, and it's still working. All right. We are now public. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope that you guys are doing well. It is the 1 a.m. Eastern live stream. Actually, forgive me, a couple minutes later than I wanted. I just got back from Tilbury, God's country. Actually, Tilbury, Ontario is quite a nice small town. I love small towns. I especially love visiting the Masonic lodges within those small towns. I think it's really, really fun and really cool. And I was there for Tilbury's installation, which was really, really cool. So, Naphtali Lodge is the name of it. But it was really fun. And traveling down the 401 was always fun. Got visited by an old friend in the sky. If you know, you know. But it was really cool. I slept a little bit, but I usually sleep, honestly, because of these 1 a.m. live streams, I usually sleep at like 2, 3 a.m., wake up around 10 a.m., give or take. So I wake up later, but I go to sleep a lot later as well. Um, no rest for the wicked, as they say. I hope that you are doing well. I also hope that you enjoyed my discussion earlier this morning, or I guess this afternoon, about King Solomon. I discovered something really interesting. January is International Quality of Life Month, which I want to explore more in future because I've talked about this before. Freemasonry is definitely of benefit to people's health and well-being, but within that same context, without question, I think Freemasonry is absolutely um, of benefit to individuals' quality of life, both their physical health, mental health, social health, and more. Cool. Yeah, usually, again, so it was the stream. It was posted January 13th at 1 p.m. Usually, and let me see if I put down, if I was careful enough to actually put King Solomon in the title. Usually, you got to go about an hour in to find the parts specifically related to King Solomon and the question as to whether King Solomon did or did not exist and was or was not a real person. Um, Yes. Who was King Solomon? That's the question we ask. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment, as I said, to hit like and subscribe. And let me know if there's anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Um, I will take it. The fact that I look like Vin Diesel. I will take it. Most people say I look ugly on this stream. So, Emma, if you think I look like Vin Diesel, then that is awesome. I mean, I don't have any thoughts on Iran because I don't know enough about it to say. I mean, I think the world seems quite on edge as it is. So I think in general, anything that's adding a greater and greater amount of uncertainty in the world is unhealthy. I mean, I know that's not a great answer, but I really don't have much else I can give at this point other than I am, of course, wishing everybody as, to be as safe as possible. And my heart aches for anyone in Iran who lost their life. What is my thought on potatoes? I like potatoes. I've grown to like vegetables in general, including potatoes, more the older I get. So there is that. Well, let's not do that. Um, Beyond Ether, welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment. If you are new to the stream, hit that like and subscribe button. I do not know what the loop is, but I will say if you're talking about the Chicago loop, then that is awesome. I love Chicago and I love the Chicago loop. So, yes, I did not know that, but that's really cool. Dixon, there is. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's no right Freemasonry decentralized. So lodges will hold different special events, and individual Masons will hold different special events as well, or districts. So, for example, we every year have a chili cook-off here in Ontario, which is really, really cool. But different lodges all hold different events. Um, yeah. But I've been to actually a couple different Masonic. I've done Masonic chili cook-offs, Masonic baking contests, all that jazz. So yeah, I have no idea, but I wouldn't. I mean, I think Eastern Star has had events as well. It's one of those things where within Freemasonry there are so many different types of events you can hold. My advice to Masonic lodges and brethren is don't be afraid to think outside the box. Whatever you're thinking of doing, whether it be, for example, if you like give these things a shot, try these things, try a chili cook-off, a cookie contest, a baking contest, try fried chicken. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to try different things. That stuff matters. That stuff is really, really important. Um, But yeah, I've been to a couple Masonic chili cook-offs. If you only knew what you know, then you would know. Steve, what I know is you should hit the like and subscribe button. Yes, I got a big nose. Mad dog, please hit like and subscribe. Subscribe. Exist but not welcome. Yes, I've grown to accept it, Dixon. I've grown to accept it. I hope you'll take a moment, if you're new to the stream, to hit like and subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Tomorrow, I was going to talk about the Metropolitan Police, um, which has, as of now, there's a requirement that um, if you are, a member of the Metropolitan Police, which is the largest police force in the UK, and you either are now or have ever been a Freemason, you must declare your involvement with it. Apparently, several hundred have already declared the membership. Um, I'm curious to see, I guess it's 316 thus far. uh, Curious what people think of that. I mean, I have my own opinions, obviously, which I've talked about previously, but I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are. Well, thank you, Exist. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Again, positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear it. The one and only, I mean, I'm cisgender, so identify as male. Um, Karash, honestly, in my experience, I know this is kind of a cop out. In my experience, it's about 50-50. I would say, I don't know. I mean, Freemasonry is not political. You'd have to, like, on the one hand, certainly Freemasonry is very much embedded in, or I don't know if celebrates the right term, but definitely is interested in, or connected with both the idea of historical traditions. I think tradition tends to be viewed more as a right-wing type of idea, but at the same time, it's very much a communal support organization that started out in some ways as kind of like a union, which tends to have more left-wing ideologies to it. I don't know if there's a neat box, but generally speaking, I'd say about 50-50. Again, keep in mind, we cannot discuss politics within a Masonic lodge, right? So that's very important to keep in mind as well. Because we cannot talk about um, politics within a Masonic lodge, The issue there is it's hard to know necessarily what everybody's politics are. We do not worship the devil. Ashes in your mouth. Freemasonry is not a religion, so it does not worship the devil nor any other figures. Um, I mean, so Masonry is a profession. Freemasonry is a civic organization, but it's named Freemasonry because it evolved from stonemason guilds. It basically took the social part of having a job and spun that off into a fully civic or community-based organization. Um, so there you go. It can lean more to the right, but again, the idea of supporting one another, especially evolving from a trade union, that is more from the left. So who knows? Uh, what I would say is there are valuable lessons that exist within Masonic rituals. Contemplation of mortality is a very valuable lesson. Having said that, I'm not going to give any specifics about what happens within rituals. So there is no end of Freemasonry, Brother Jay. I don't really know what that means. There is no highest rank within Freemasonry unless you're referring to the third degree within Freemasonry, in which case that is the highest rank. I think you're referring to these ideas around the 33rd degree, but you need to understand Freemasonry, it doesn't work that way. There are pendant bodies, there are different paths you can take, but ultimately, Freemasonry, you could argue it doesn't end ever, but it reaches its height at the third degree. That's the degree at which you become a master mason. That's the degree at which you can hold offices within a lodge. That's the degree at which, you've reached the height of Freemasonry. Um, and I've never seen Brother Jay, so I've been a Freemason for approximately 20 years. I've seen dozens, more than dozens. I mean, I've been to over 1,000 Masonic events. Within that, seen hundreds of Masonic rituals, never seen any indication of quote unquote the threat of vengeance. Jimmy Dean, there's three reasons I don't talk about Masonic rituals, other than in very general terms. First, it's like having a family recipe. If I had a family recipe that was passed down from my grandparents to my parents, to me, I would not share the recipe on the internet. I might talk about what the recipe makes, how it tastes, why I love it, but I'm not going to share the recipe itself because it's a family recipe. It belongs to my family. And if I share it online, it affects the bond I have between past and present generations and future generations of the family. In the same way, within Freemasonry, what we have to pass down from generation to generation is our is our ritual. If I give specifics, it affects those bonds. Second, not every ritual is the same. Freemasonry is decentralized. There's not a single Masonic governing body and a single Masonic ritual. So, if I share what happened within my Masonic rituals, the danger of that is, let's say somebody hears what I say, decide they want to join Freemasonry, they're going to join expecting certain things, and depending on their jurisdiction, it may not happen because their rituals may be different. In which case, they're not going to be present for the degree. They're going to be expecting things, and instead of just being present for what's happening, they're going to be thinking about what they expect to happen. And that's unfair to them and to the people performing the ritual. And third, it can act as a spoiler. So those are the three reasons. I poop every day. Um, so Ashley, in your mouth, again, I don't talk specifically about any oaths or obligations, but here's what I'll say to that. I used to be I worked in a legal aid clinic for a few years, and I did landlord tenant stuff. So I worked with people who were potentially getting evicted, whatever it might be. And I was talking to this one lady who was getting evicted potentially for non-payment of rent. She said she paid her rent. It was a big fight with the landlord. She at one point said, "If I'm lying, I'll rip my tongue out." Now, she didn't mean she would literally rip her tongue out. I don't think it's possible to do that. She was saying that as a way to express the seriousness with which she took the situation and the seriousness with which she took, that she was telling the truth, or wanted me to believe she was telling the truth, and the importance of that. The point is, metaphor is real, simile is real. Not everything should be taken literally. Sometimes something is said not to be taken literally, but rather as an indication of the value and the importance and the seriousness behind the words. Um, I mean, you don't have to give up any wealth to become a Mason of any sort other than your dues per year. Um, Why did Jesus? I mean, I was bored missing my legs, so I am not a Christian myself, chicken strangler. So I don't believe it's possible to cure my lameness, although I would not want to be cured. I like who I am, and I like the person I am, and I like the person I am with no legs. What I would say, though, is it might be worth, I will say there's this television show called the Chosen, which is actually a pretty good TV show. Again, I'm not Christian personally, but I do admire the show. If nothing else, from a storytelling and technical perspective, it's very well put together and acted very well. There's a great scene where one character asks Jesus why, even if Jesus could cure him, he chooses not to. I think his name is like Little John or something, or is it James? I forget what the name is. uh, Jesus, at least in the show, I don't know if it's based on the Bible or if it's something the writers added in, but he gives a great answer as to why Jesus does not cure everyone of their physical issues. Um, Again, if you want to look for it from a Christian sense, I think that's a really great answer. And maybe having no legs helps me with, and other conditions. I have Kallman's syndrome as well, and other medical issues. Maybe those things give me a sense of peace and empathy, and it also maybe helps inspire other people to overcome their obstacles. Who knows? Um, well, Jimmy Dean, I don't lie. I might get things wrong, but I don't lie. Um, I have a TikTok channel. I never use it. I posted one thing on there. Um, Panda Express. So Freemasonry is not witchcraft, nor is it occult, unless you want to use the term occult very broadly. What I would say is within Freemasonry, the most important thing to understand is in the civic or community space, not the civil space. Um, there is no big secret other than Freemasonry cares about trying to make the world a better place, which is not a secret at all. I am, whether I'm Jewish or not, does not make a difference. It should not make a difference. Being a Freemason, we have members of all different ethnicities, religions, backgrounds, etc., etc. Ben Abraham Steinmetz, please hit like and subscribe. By the way, to everybody watching this, please hit like and subscribe. I will take Professor X. He's awesome. So to advance through the degrees, especially at the start when it comes to the first three degrees, there's usually what's called a catechism. There's some type of knowledge, some type of, you have to kind of, I'm trying to think of what the right term is. You have a responsibility to, um, I'm not sure what the best term is. Like you have to, there's call and response, there's memorization. Um, But it's a process, right? At the start, just focus on getting the first degree and enjoying the process and go from there. Um, we do not use witchcraft within Freemasonry. What I am, ET, is handsome. So Freemasonry does not come from the Kabbalah. Not to say Freemasonry does not have parallels with a lot of different philosophical, religious, theological texts. But at its core, Freemasonry comes from stone masonry guilds of the Middle Ages in the 15th and 16th century. Demonstrating proficiency is the term. That's what I was trying to think of. Well, I mean, I know a lot of Eastern Star uh, women and Eastern Star men for that matter. Eastern Stars for both men and women. No issues. I mean, I love them. They're a wonderful part of the Masonic family. Eastern Star, formed in 1850, is an excellent part of the Masonic family. It depends really on yourself and how quickly you can learn the work and how quickly you'll be ready to prove your proficiency. Usually there's a minimum time frame of you have to wait at least 1 month between degrees, but that's usually the minimum. Some people it can take years. Some people they can do the whole thing in, let's say, 5 months. I have, yes, Mark Anthony, and it was incredible. The Masonic Lodge in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Masonic Temple, is absolutely unbelievable. It's a beautiful building and a jewel within Freemasonry. In fact, you still have 2 days left. You can vote for the Philadelphia Masonic Temple and One Broad North in the Philly Loves contest. So let me just get the exact information so you can find it. Freemasonry, there is no enemy in Freemasonry. Freemasonry, we don't want no beef with nobody. Um, let's see. Here it is. So it is the Philly Favorites Readers' Choice Awards. If you type that in, you'll find it. You nominate the Philadelphia Masonic Temple under the Things to Do section, tour, place to take visitors, museum, and attraction categories. And then One Broad North, which handles events at the Masonic Temple, is eligible for the wedding venue, event planner, and event services categories. I mean, you can't really lose a rank. I wouldn't even think of it in terms of rank, 'cause that's not the right term. You can be suspended, which means, you can be removed from Freemasonry. Often that's for not paying your dues, though it can at times be for other things, including, um, I'm trying to think of what the word is, including, like if you engage in what would be called unmasonic conduct, could be, for example, if you're commit a crime, like, out there in the world, if you are found guilty of murder or something, you're definitely going to be suspended from Freemasonry. I know many Freemasons who love the NHL and who love the National Hockey League, so I cannot imagine that to be the case. Well, I think you're talking about Memphis Mizraim, Ben Abraham. That is in Europe. I mean, it exists in North America, but it's not recognized by Freemasonry in North America. Um, exactly. Tim Horton was a Mason. Metropolitan police are not the enemies of Freemasonry. In fact, there have already been 316 Freemasons that have already complied with the requirement to disclose their Masonic affiliation. Um, am I happy? I'm way over 16, I can promise you that. Am I happy? I don't know. I try my best to be happy. I think what I am is useful, and I think that might be more important than just being happy. I try my best to be helpful and useful in the world. Winston Churchill was, so was FDR. I've always wondered if maybe the reason the two of them got along so well is because they were both Freemasons. I mean, so God and the devil, those are religious concepts or theological concepts. Freemasonry is not a religion. We would think of it in terms of not God, but a supreme being. Um, and, every Mason, sort of your Christian Mason, God and the devil will play very important roles within your life. Beyond that, the idea of them playing an important role in Freemasonry, again, Freemasonry is not a religion. Certainly biblical, like Freemasonry borrowed from or parallels certain biblical stories. Freemasonry borrowed a great deal from the story of King Solomon. I actually did a whole stream about that earlier today. Oh, that's pretty funny, actually. Um, Del Boy, there was not one and two Masons before 3 slash Freemasonry. There were stonemasons and stone Masonic guilds. Well, I mean, Ben, I guess that comes down to a question of semantics. I would say it's not a religion, and it's not a religion for three reasons. First, it neither makes any promises of salvation nor threats of damnation. So, for example, in a religion, there is usually this idea of salvation of one's soul, what happens in the afterlife, how to get to heaven, how you don't get to heaven, different rules around that. If somebody were to come to me and tell me I'm going to attend lodge every day to get myself into heaven, I would say that's not the way to do it. If you want to know how to deal with the afterlife and, your eternal resting place, what you need to do is go to church. Freemasonry is about how you live in this world, not how you get to the next one, or what happens to you in the next one. Second, Freemasonry is a democratic institution with personal interpretations. Religion is a theological institution with set, standard, required interpretations. So what that means is we in Freemasonry have rituals, right? We have ceremonies. However, even if it's in a jurisdiction, so in Ontario, every ritual is the same. Even though that's true, and it's one book, and everybody gets that book in Ontario, every Mason in Ontario will have a different interpretation of the ritual, of what the meaning is, what the meaning behind it is, and how he comes to understand it. In a religious connotation, that's not the case. In religion, you have a priest, a rabbi, an imam, or whatever it is, and he gives you the proper interpretation of the book, a proper interpretation of the words that you are expected to follow along with, or you start your own religion, I suppose. That's why in a Masonic lodge, everybody is facing inward to the altar and each other, whereas in a church or religious setting, usually everybody is facing towards one person who is giving you the correct interpretation of the work. And it's also not a religion because if you look at the way it's taxed or the tax status, it's not under a religion. It's under usually, not always, but usually nonprofits to my understanding. Though every lodge may be slightly different. I've never heard of any Masonic body anywhere being considered a religion for tax purposes. So there you go. Yes, I got a big nose. Please hit like and subscribe. Yes, they do. And that's one of the best parts as well. Lodges do get rented out for weddings and other events. And I think that's wonderful. I think we should have both individual and I think it's important to have the public using our buildings as much as we can. I do not know if that's true or not. If that's the case, I mean, I would be very sad if Freddie Mercury was removed from Freemasonry because he was gay. I've known many gay Freemasons. Well, I say many, 4 or 5, but there's nothing, Freemasonry does not discriminate against sexual orientation, nor should it. So yeah, I mean, people can get married in usually not the lodge room. It's kind of frowned upon in that, but usually there's a hall or a location within a Masonic building that can be used for that. Um, Mike, there is a weird implication there. I've known a few gay men, good people, good men. I don't know. No different than the straight men I know. Um, I think Freemasonry. I mean, I have no clue, Del Boy. I know nothing about Scientology. I mean, to my knowledge, it's a religion. To my knowledge, if you are a Scientologist, you could be a Freemason. I don't see why you couldn't, but I don't know enough about it to say for sure. Um, or it could be a Torah. I've seen eagle feathers used in a lodge. I've not seen it personally, but I've heard of stones being used for Wiccan members or gems. So it really depends on the member and the person joining. But I've seen also, like, not books, but I've seen an eagle feather used before. So, um, well, Del Boy, I am not a fan of reviling anyone's religious beliefs or one's religion. So I disagree. It is a theological text, which means it gets complicated because I don't think with a theological text, whether it be the Bible, the Quran, or any other holy book, words like made up, true, false necessarily mean are as, useful as in other contexts. By the way, everybody, please don't forget January 21st, 24-hour live stream. Please keep that in mind. We do not, Josh, other than sometimes I'll eat some, Taco Bell, and then I find myself definitely, looking up to my supreme being for help a couple hours later. Hello, EREID. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Well, they wouldn't be told to leave. Well, it depends. I mean, it depends. You'd have to define, like, if they're just sitting there in their heart and in their head thinking they hate Freemasonry, but never saying anything to the point where we couldn't know, it wouldn't make a difference, right? If he were to say something like, I don't like this particular religious group, I probably wouldn't kick him out of Freemasonry, so long as he was able to keep those opinions, you know, to himself to such an extent that let's say you said, I don't like this particular group, and a member of that group is part of the lodge. He can, treat him with respect and as a brother during the lodge meetings and outside the lodge meetings. But if it was a point where his hatred was such that he would bring it up and would talk unkindly about members of that religion or members of that group, then I would probably ask him to leave Freemasonry, is what I would say, because he would be disrupting the harmony of the lodge at that point. Because every member, whatever religion they are, is a brother and should be made to feel welcome in the lodge. Yeah, I don't agree with that, Josh. I think ritual or ceremony, again, because I'll say Freemasons have rituals, people will take that and put it in a religious context. However, it's not the case, right? A ritual is not automatically religious. So your grandfather was a Shriner, which is a Mason. The Shrine is an independent body, so you have to be a Mason first to be a Shriner. I mean, it's the same in some ways, but it's also different. I mean, things change over 50 years, right? Including, not limited to, the numbers have dropped. The way Masons communicate to each other has changed. There's use of social media, use of email. Even the rituals have changed, although hopefully not greatly. If that's the case, go knock on the door and write a letter. Maybe dropping off a letter in person will help. If nobody's there, they can at least get the letter from you. I do not know what that is. Well, I mean, I don't know if Satanism would be considered a religion or not. I've never met a satanic Freemason, and a Satanist once told me that Freemasonry would be, opposite of or not compatible with his beliefs. So I guess you take that for whatever it's worth. Yeah. Well, Jordan, I hope you will hit the like and subscribe button before you die. We are going to be ending this stream in about another 20, 30 minutes or so. But thank you all for being here. Once again, don't forget about the 21st. Follow me on social media as well. Nominate the Philadelphia Masonic Temple. I've grown to accept my big nose. Number of people who keep saying I have a big nose. What can I say? I have to accept it. Well, I mean, Ashley, there's a lot of assumptions you're making there. I mean, well, first of all, I would not repent on the rituals because repentance would imply either regret or, I guess, regret or sadness. And I am neither regretful nor sad that I took part in Masonic rituals and that I will continue to take part in Masonic rituals. In terms of why don't I leave Freemasonry, I mean, I don't leave Freemasonry because I love it, even though I find often it can be a pain in the ass as well. I still love it. It's kind of like asking why watch my favorite movie when I could watch this other movie instead. At the end of the day, it's because I love the movie and I love Freemasonry. It's not for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. People are welcome to not like Freemasonry, not enjoy it, not want to be part of it. All I can say is I enjoy it. And why would I leave something I enjoy? Um, Michael, I'm pretty sure I am a real Mason. At least I think so. I mean, what can I say? I've been a Mason for about 20 years. I've got a lot of dues cards in my pocket, in my wallet, I should say, that would disagree with you. But I suspect you're one of those people who's seen a lot of conspiracy theory nonsense and thinks there is a real Mason. A real Mason is a member of a Masonic lodge, period. Um, I've been a Freemason for 20 years. That's what this channel is about. We talk about Freemasonry. I ask for people's opinions, etc., etc. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Um, I mean, I can leave if I wanted to. Of course, I mean, I know many Masons who can leave or who have left, in fact. Sometimes they will actually just announce they're leaving. They'll say, for whatever reason, maybe they're moving away from the lodge and don't want to join another lodge. Maybe they don't want to pay the dues. Like, there's a million reasons for somebody could leave Freemasonry. In the same way, I can watch whatever movie I like. I just choose to watch movies I enjoy, and I can join any club I want to join. I prefer to join Freemasonry. No, the Knights Templar came much late. Sorry, the Knights Templar was much earlier than Freemasonry. The Knights Templar was part of the Crusades. Freemasonry evolved from stonemason guilds in the 15th and 16th centuries. Um, they would have a very easy time hunting me down as well. Well, I mean, Freemasonry is not a profession, so it does not. Neither does being on YouTube, so please consider supporting the channel with the super chat. I would very much appreciate it. Honestly, Jordan, I am not in ice. Jordan, I mean, when people say, what is the point of Freemasonry? I mean, at its core, the point of Freemasonry is the same as the point of any other group or organization. The desire to belong to something bigger than oneself, right? What is the point of getting together with friends on a Friday night? Because you enjoy being part of something, being part of a group. You enjoy having friends. Within Freemasonry, it's the same idea, right? It's this desire to be part of something bigger than oneself. And the form that it takes within Freemasonry is ritual and Masonic lodges, charitable endeavors, certain philosophical discussions. But at its core, we want to be part of something greater than oneself. What does Freemasonry stand for? Brotherly love, relief, and truth is how I describe it. For me personally, what I always say also is Freemasonry stands for the belief that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. I mean, I don't know if everyone feared. I mean, I think you might be talking about, I'm not positive, but I think you might be talking about a Scottish Rite Learning Center, which is a wonderful part of Freemasonry, um, and a wonderful part of the Masonic Order. Um, well, it takes time. It takes a long time. When I say a long time, I mean it can take months. So don't rush the process, Jason. Just enjoy it. Well, I'm glad that you stopped on it, Jordan. I hope you're enjoying. I hope my answers are making sense to you. Um, Again, I do this like Square and Compass Promotions, whether it be this live stream or anything else. The purpose is to talk about Freemasonry, promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, and turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. No, I did not sacrifice my legs. I was born without them. Um, I don't know where that's coming from, but that is incorrect. I'm going to after this stream. Well, I mean, so what happened is, so certainly the Knights Templar in the Middle Ages, they were connected with stonemasons in that they created forts and basically temples on the pilgrimage, on the pilgrimage path to give themselves and those they were accompanying a place to stay. So there were connections there. When Freemasonry formed a few hundred years later, when it was developing rituals and ceremonies, it looked back at at the Templars and decided to model a certain segment of Freemasonry upon them. Um, they were the first international bankers. I don't think I get demonic attacks. I mean, I don't feel like I'm getting demonic attacks, but I don't know. I could be wrong. And we do not worship Baphomet. Freemasonry is not a religion, so we do not worship whether it be Baphomet or any other entities. Ashley, in your mouth, you seem awfully sure for something that you don't seem to know anything about. So um, I would say maybe be a little bit less sure of yourself. Usually, what I find is being sure of oneself is it makes it very hard to actually learn anything. I mean, I personally am not one who believes in things like demons or the supernatural. I'm pretty much not interested in that type of stuff. But there are Masons who do as well, but it's not part of the lodge, right? If worshiping Baphomet made me rich, I don't think so. I don't know what Baphomet is. I understand. I've heard different stories because people keep coming on this stream and talking about him for some reason. I've heard some have described him as he's basically another name for Satan. Others have said he's just a demon. My answer right now is no. Well, I mean, I don't believe Baphomet exists in the first place. If I did find out that he existed, my suspicion is worshiping him would be very bad for me. I've read enough books about, Faustian bargains to know that usually turns out pretty terrible for the person doing it. So the long answer is saying no, I would not. Um, Not in my experience, Jason. I mean, I define higher echelons. I've known plenty of Masons who were lawyers and bankers. I've also known plenty who were plumbers, electricians, which also to me is a higher, you can be pretty rich as a plumber. I don't think we should. So define higher echelons, but I would say the way you're thinking of it, probably not. Um, Well, Kashrash, that's a really good question. Honestly, you are put within Freemasonry in a privileged position to potentially help the world and not so much influence as help the world, right? You know more people, so you'll know if more people need help, need assistance. You can pool resources. You can donate $10 to a local food bank, or you can go to your Masonic lodge and ask every brother to donate $10 to the food bank. And now or organize volunteer hours, whatever it might be. You are in a position to try to build a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Um, I mean, it's not a cult, Jordan, for a couple different reasons, but the main one is cults require you or expect you to put the cult ahead of your family and your work. Freemasonry, that is not the case. Within Freemasonry, you are actually expected to put your family and work ahead of it. So, family and work ahead of Freemasonry, right? Cults are about isolation. Freemasonry is about connection, both within and without the lodge. You do, although the nature of the higher power is so broadly or liberally defined at this point that I would say, really almost there are some people who might be considered by, religious people to be atheists who are able to join Freemasonry. There's also liberal orders of Freemasonry as well. Um, Oh, the old degree question, Ashley. I was expecting that from you sooner. I am a third degree, which is the highest degree in Freemasonry. I suspect, Ashley, you will say it's the 33rd, which is not. I'm also an 18th degree Scottish Rite Mason. I'm also on a couple different boards within Freemasonry. Those aren't degrees, but those have offices. I'm not interested right now in joining consistory or Knights of Kadosh, would be called in the northern jurisdiction. But my suspicion, Ashley, is you're going to say 33rd is the highest degree. It's not. The highest degree within Freemasonry is the third degree. The Fibonacci sequence, I don't disagree with you, Dixon. I've said this in the past. Um, my supreme being is best understood as the rational nature of the universe as expressed through science and geometry. So um, the Fibonacci sequence is one example of that order and symmetry and geometry. So, Ashley, I have never, in any degree, in any Masonic ritual I've ever taken, denounced any religious figure, be it Jesus or anything else. Because again, we in Freemasonry do not revile anyone's religious beliefs, nor would we expect anyone to renounce their religious beliefs. Freemasonry occupies a different space. Freemasonry occupies a civic and community space. Jesus occupies religious space. And I am not an arsonist. Well, so you need to be careful with that, Jordan. I do. I mean, I have rings and coins and pins, and like I have. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. Nobody go too far. Um, I'll be back in a second. So I have all of these pins and coins from blood donation, but the rest of these are all Masonic primarily. But that's not, you need to be really careful with that, even with rings, because you can go to a pawn shop and buy a Masonic ring. That doesn't mean you're automatic, or you can, um, you can have a family member as a Freemason pass away and leave you a ring in their will or whatever it is. You need to be really careful about that stuff. A dues card is the best way to prove it. Even that, you have to be careful. But like, um, I mean, here's my Windsor Lodge 403 dues card. Um, right? I don't want you guys to see the secretary's name because it's not my place. So you need to be really careful with that you are, and I tell it to Masons as well. Don't assume just because someone has a ring there, or even pins like that, you can pick those up at pawn shops, right? You need to be really careful. No, you weren't rude, Ashley. I appreciated your questions. Again, I did get within it a certain level of what sounded to me like you making assumptions, which you need to be really, really careful about. But I wouldn't, I mean, certainly if you're going to be on YouTube, believe me, I've seen plenty of rude people. You're fine. Um, and I mean, I don't know what you've seen that would make you worry. There's plenty of misinformation, conspiracy theories about Freemasonry on streams on YouTube. So I can't, and if you don't know any better, then because you're not, you've never been a Freemason or don't have family of Freemasons, it's understandable why you might get concerned. Um, you say that. I mean, again, like, let's say I were to pass away and I was lazy. And because I was lazy, I did not include anything in my will. Um, you know, um, One of the biggest issues with that is those pins that could all end up in like a pawn shop somewhere. Who knows? People could buy them, right? Mason garments. I mean, those would be aprons. Honestly, I do have some special aprons as well that I got. as like gifts when I was traveling. I smell you hitting the like and subscribe button. So every Shriner is a Mason, Dirty Mike. Every Shriner becomes a Mason first, and then they can choose to join the shrine afterwards. I mean, Freemasonry is decentralized, Cass Rash. So there is no highest rank within Freemasonry. Like the Grand Master in Ontario is of equal rank to the Grand Master in England, to the Grand Master in Texas, to the Grand Master anywhere else. There is no single Mason or single jurisdiction that has the highest rank. Um, well, Cruz, you're trying to start something here. Everybody jump in the chat and hit the like and subscribe button. Let's start. Let's just do that instead. How about? Shriners do not hurt kids. Nobody hurts kids, Ashley. That again is one of those questions where that's kind of a foolish question to ask, right? You need to kind of think logically. If we were hurting kids, A, why would I be on stream admitting it? And B, wouldn't there be a bunch of Shriners arrested and put in jail, right? You need to think, you need to use a little bit more critical thinking here. I mean, there is, if I recall correctly, a Masonic lodge in Egypt. I don't know for sure, but I believe there are some. So in my experience, it's not that rare, Reed. I've actually found, because I'm searching for it, and I try to find it wherever I can. I find it pretty frequently in Masonic pawn shops, to be honest. In fact, I once went to a pawn shop, and every now and then I'll go to a pawn shop and I'll ask if they have anything Masonic to take a look at. And I remember going to one pawn shop, and they told me, it was really interesting. They told me, I asked if they had a Masonic ring, and they said they pulled one out of a drawer. I asked like where they got it. They said, well, because Masonic stuff is so in demand, we actually order a whole bunch of rings with a square and compass in bulk because people are buying them all the time. And then they'll take them from estate sales and people pawning them as well. And I once went to a pawn shop and tried to purchase a Masonic apron and regalia, and it was just too expensive. And they were able to price it expensively because there was a market for it. I will show you my rings on the January 21st stream because my ring is currently over in a drawer and I don't want to go get it. It's very far. It's very far away, and I'm very lazy. I don't have a pistol. I don't have any weapons, and I'm going to assume by pistol you don't mean anything other than weapons, which I do not have. Some Freemasons may own guns or firearms, some may not. It really depends, A, on the laws of the jurisdiction in which they live, and B, on their own personal view. I mean, I'm nice because I'm trying to be on stream promoting my views on Freemasonry and the way Freemasonry was and is beneficial to the world around it and is influential and relevant. If I'm not nice on the stream, it's not going to help me get my message out. And by the way, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I would very much appreciate it. Class rush, well, that depends. There is no time requirement. I mean, there's the 2-hour initiation. After that, which you have to do. After that, I mean, I've known Masons who have been Masons for 20 years, and I see them maybe once per year, twice per year. I've known others who I see 3, 4, 5 times a week. What I would say is it depends how much you love it and how much you want to get out of it. If you want to become a Mason and come once a year or even not show up at all and just pay your dues, it's kind of like being the member of a gym. I mean, you pay your dues to the gym, you're a member, you can show up and work out, or you can choose to stay home. It doesn't affect your membership, but the ability you have to grow and become healthier, you're not going to get any benefit from it. Freemasonry is the same way. You can be a member of a Masonic lodge and you can like the idea of being a member of the lodge and whatever, but if you're not showing up, you're not going to grow within Freemasonry. Um, so the better question is how much time are you willing to put into Freemasonry? It's no different than, I mean, you can use any example. It's like being a member of a music academy. If you're a member of a music academy but never show up to learn how to play the piano, basically at that point they're just taking your money, which I guess they'll take it. And maybe you get some type of good feeling from being able to call yourself a member of something, but it's the work that you put in that matters. So dues are what you pay, usually annually, to a lodge. It funds the lodge. Freemasonry is self-funded. Um, I would say there is no set dues cost. It really depends on the lodge itself, how big it is, how expensive it is. So, like if you're in a small town, your lodge dues can be as little as $40 a year. I know other lodges are as much as $500 per year. It depends on the lodge. And then there's usually a one-time initiation fee because when you first join, it takes a little bit extra time. There's certain things, processes they go through, application forms to fill out. So it's almost like a one-time administrative fee followed by yearly dues. And that pays for, amongst other things, the building in which the Masonic Lodge meets, refreshments before and after lodge, special events the lodge wants to hold, charitable giving, benevolence, etc., etc. I do travel often, and I'm grateful for how much I can travel. I genuinely consider myself incredibly lucky that I'm able to travel as much as I can. Um, I've traveled to the Philippines, Colombia, Rio de Janeiro, all throughout the United States, etc., etc. We shouldn't, Ashley. Look, I've known Masons, unfortunately, who have had problems with substances and have shown up intoxicated. They're usually asked to leave. I would be very upset if were to sit in lodge with a brother who is intoxicated. Now, after the meeting is finished and there's refreshments, some lodges will serve alcohol, some won't. But once again, it is incumbent on the lodge to be responsible, to not be letting people drive home if they've had too much to drink, to maintain decorum, to recognize any liabilities that may exist. Like I have my Smart Serve license because if the lodge ever serves alcohol and I'm there, I know I have the skills and the credentials to make sure it's being served safely and appropriately. Well, good for you, Jordan. I mean, getting clean off anything is not easy, especially and including fentanyl. So more power to you. Um, um, what you're getting is kind of like what Mikey said. I mean, there is a leap of faith element here in that, uh, you know, I'm trying to think of how, let's imagine that you're at a club or a bar and you look over and you see a group of guys enjoying each other's company. No, you don't. You see other people enjoying each other's company. You decide you want to hang out with them. So you go and you hang out with them, and more people start to hang out. And eventually, you've got a whole group of guys getting together, hanging out, going for these regular guys' nights out. Maybe eventually, this group decides, why are we going to a bar? Why don't we pool our money, purchase our own building, purchase our own space? We can cater it, we can bring food in. Maybe they start to develop rituals and ceremonies surrounding their guys' night out. They call themselves whatever, the Order of the Guys' Night Out Club. Like, what you're getting from it ultimately is that sense of belonging and being part of a group. The ceremonies and the rituals and all that, it adds pomp, it adds circumstances, it adds a formal quality. You also get a bit of a social safety net. Um, like for example, I've said this before. I used to say two. It's actually three. I've known three brothers who would have been homeless, and in one case, they would have included their families if they if not for Masons stepping in and providing them with benevolence funds to help them pay their mortgage and help them pay their rent. Which, by the way, doesn't just help the brother, it helps their whole community. Because if that person didn't have the money and ended up being homeless, now they're taking up shelter spaces, now they're on the street, now they're needing more medical services because homeless people, have more medical issues. Um, I've known brothers who are going through psychological challenges, going through mental health crises, get divorced, and they need those brothers to rely upon. They need a place to stay, they need a place to sleep, they need to talk to somebody, right? That's what Freemasonry does. Um, I've never joined Moose Lodge, but I know a lot of members who are part of Moose. Sure. I mean, they're in some ways encouraged to cast rash, help others with their personal life struggles. Now, again, the extent to which they are able, I mean, it's complicated. They may not be able to all the time because they may have their own struggles. But that's why I'm always suggesting Freemasons should take psychological first aid training. So if someone is having a personal life struggle outside of the lodge, you have the skills and abilities to help them get through it. Yes, I mean that's one of the best things as well. It's visit. You can be part of a golf club. You have access to that golf club. If I'm part of a Masonic lodge, I'm part of every Masonic lodge in the sense that I can visit. And I can visit lodges in Bogota, Colombia, Rio de Janeiro, London, England, Scotland, the Philippines, Texas, Florida, California, Nevada, Illinois, Michigan, New York, Manitoba, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any. Missouri, Kentucky. And those are just some of the Masonic lodges I visited. Toronto. I've been to Toronto, yeah. Never been to Jamaica. Well, Jason, you cannot because I don't think you live in my area. If you do and you want to apply, knock on the door, express your interest. None of that is true. What Gui is saying is not true. Well, Jordan, you should get to sleep. I'm going to be going to sleep as well. But first, you should hit the like button and subscribe button and consider a super chat. Um, they're all good lodges. I've never been to a lodge in Mississippi, but there is a Grand Lodge in Mississippi. You should contact them and express your interest in joining. Really, you don't want to look for a good lodge. You just want to look for a lodge that's in your area that, just start by finding a lodge in your area, talk to them, get to know them. Don't worry about whether it's a good lodge or not. Worry about whether you think you will get along with the brethren. That's what matters, right? Do I like these guys that I'm meeting? Do I think they're good people, good brothers? Would I enjoy spending more time with them? That's really the question you should be asking for now. And you go from there. Well, I'm going to sleep soon. Don't get me wrong, Jordan. I'll be doing my 24-hour live stream on January 21st, but that's January 21st. It's right now, that's a week away, actually. It's crazy. One whole week away. So when you say who is allowed to build or establish a Masonic lodge, the word I would use is establish. We don't really build Masonic lodges. We, meet wherever it is that's available that we can. But you can create or establish a Masonic lodge. You have to already be a Mason, and then you have to desire to start a new Masonic lodge. It could be for any number of reasons. You could have the desire of maybe there's one Masonic lodge in your town and there's 300 members and a group of them want to start a separate Masonic lodge so they can become officers faster or meet a different night of the week, or they want to form it based on shared interests, like maybe they all work together. But you have to already be a member within the lodge, and then you need to request permission from your Grand Lodge to establish a new one. after talking to the lodges in your area. The quickest answer I can say is the Grand Lodge within your area. So in Ontario, if you want to start a new lodge, you need permission from the Grand Lodge of Ontario, Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario. Um, 21st is a week away. I have never been to the lodge in a cave. I've never heard of anybody finding children's shoes anywhere. However, I do know there are cave degrees. I want to visit one at some point. Good morning, KY. I don't think you're at Gitmo, Billy R. Um, I think you're full of nonsense. Yes, it is 2:12 in the morning. I'm definitely going to be getting some sleep very shortly. I am born and raised. I grew up in Winnipeg, currently live in Windsor. And I love Canada, greatest country in the world. Second greatest country is what I'll say is every other country is second because I love them all. But greatest country in the world is Canada. Maybe we have the greatest neighbors in the world. There's a cave degree done in Kentucky. I also think Missouri has one, if I'm not mistaken. I think even Tennessee has one. Tennessee, Freemasonry is not a veil for worshiping Lucifer. Freemasonry is not a religion. We don't worship any deity or any being, whether it be Lucifer or Jesus or anything in between. Freemasons, I know many Christian Freemasons who worship Jesus. Freemasonry occupies a civic or community space. Religion occupies a religious space. Um, I mean, that's not a um, religious figure. Again, it's the thing you need to focus on with Freemasonry is the first three degrees. That is the foundation upon which Freemasonry exists. If you were, for example, a lot of people point out the 33rd degree or the 18th degree, whatever it is. If you were to get rid of the 18th degree or the 33rd degree within Freemasonry, I'd be disappointed because those are very important. For a lot of members, those are very important degrees. It's a major part of their Masonic journey. But Freemasonry would still exist, and for 99% of Freemasonry, nothing would change. And, I also always point out, if you are a 33rd degree Mason and you're sitting in your lodge, you are of no higher rank than a third degree Mason. You have no special sway or power or influence. In fact, I was recently at a Masonic lodge, uh, my lodge, where you had one 33rd degree Mason and everybody else was a third degree Mason or an entered apprentice Mason, which is first degree. There was a motion. The 33rd voted one way. The other nine voted the opposite way, and the motion passed because 33rd degree doesn't have any special authority or rights or power within a craft lodge, or even for that matter within Scottish Rite. It's just an honorific. Also, you need to always keep in mind, yes, there's symbolism within Freemasonry, there's Christian symbolism, Judaic symbolism, Islamic symbolism. There's architectural symbolism, there's Egyptian symbolism, none of that stuff. The symbols equal worship or religion. It's rather parallels meant to describe how best to live here on earth. If you want to know about, what you should worship or how you're going to get to the afterlife, focus on going to church or your religious connotations. Um, so it's part of it is advancing through the degrees, but in my opinion, Cass Rash, the main purpose of performing Masonic rituals is the purpose of any ritual to create bonds of brotherhood through shared experience. Now, so the rituals in Ontario will be the same. The rituals in Texas will all be the same. They're different between the jurisdictions, but within the jurisdictions they're the same. But there are commonalities. So the point is, by going through a Masonic ritual, I feel more connected to all of my brothers because they went through the same ritual. I also feel connected to my brothers in the past, including my grandfather who was a Mason, and those brothers yet to come, because we all went through rituals. And I think that's always been the purpose of ritual at its core, is to create bonds of brotherhood through shared experiences. Um, and I think that's been true since Egypt, to be honest. The Catholic faith condemns us for a couple different reasons. Primarily, what you want to do is read Humanum Genus. It was written by Pope Leo the 13th in 1888. Amongst other things, they did not like the fact that Freemasonry was democratic in nature, which they thought was, you know, threatened their idea of divinely inspired power, as well as they did not like the idea of Freemasons treating every religion as being the same. However, because Freemasonry is a civic organization, it is required to, and also at that time, even economic in some ways. It's not, it can't be telling some people that they have the correct religion and others they have the incorrect religion, because that's not its place. It's about the community and civic order and civic organizations. Also, I had my suspicion that there was some jealousy. Thank you, Mr. Cowan. That part of it, a big part of it was actually, jealousy that Masonic numbers were growing. Um, I've known many Christian 33rd degree Masons. I've known many Christian third degree Masons. I've known many Christian 18th degree Masons, many Christian entered apprentices, as well as many Muslim, Jewish, etc., etc. Um, you take an obligation, not an oath. I would consider it an obligation. What I would say is, I don't give any specifics about the obligation. You have to take it yourself. But at no point in the obligation did I have to, obligate myself to anything that was against my civic, spiritual slash religious, familial, or employment responsibilities. I can both be a good member of the community, a good, let's say, Christian, part of my family, and also be in compliance with Masonic oaths or obligations. At no point did I say anything that would be contrary to what it means to be a good citizen, a good family man, a good employee, a good neighbor, etc., etc. Um, Jace Jordan writes, has there been any Masonic presidents? There have been 14 or 15 Masonic presidents. I used to be able to list them. I can't anymore. George Washington, James Monroe, Taft, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Lyndon B. Johnson, Gerald Ford. I'm missing a bunch. Possibly Joe Biden. It depends who you ask. Harry Truman. I'm missing a lot, but there's just a few. Um, yes, Karash, thank you. I'll see you on the 21st as well. Make sure if you're subscribing to this stream, what you do is make sure that you turn on the notification bell. That way, when I start my streams, you'll get a notification, or even mark in a calendar. The first 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Mondays through Fridays, with usually special posts Sundays 6 p.m. I don't think Pence is a Freemason. To my knowledge, he's not. There you go. KY puts it best. And whether you believe that or not, again, I got nothing. It's up to you. All I can tell you is there is a level of leap of faith. If you're going to join Freemasonry, you'll just have to trust what I say of the obligation and what KY says the obligation is true. So I like Joe Biden, actually. I do, not on this stream as very much, because this stream is, to promote Freemasonry in terms of the ways it was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. But I do have a personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson, where I tend to talk about more of my outside interests, wrestling, scary movies, etc., etc. I do not know what SYBAU means, but welcome. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen to become a Freemason. There's sometimes there's residency requirements, but not citizenship requirements, at least to my knowledge. Now, every jurisdiction is different. That may be a rule in some places. It's not one I've ever heard of. Shaq is a Mason. He was made a Mason on site. He's Prince Hall Mason. Seems to really support it as well. All right, guys, thank you all so much for being here. I will see you all soon. Have an excellent night slash morning. So I've never heard the motto of Freemasons as being Novus Sanctular Ordo. To the extent that there is a motto to Freemasonry, I suppose it would be to make good men better, though I'm not personally a huge fan of that one myself. Freemasonry is not a religion. Christianity is. So it's occupying different spaces. It's kind of like asking, um, be a how can you be a vegetarian and like scary movies? Like one is not connected to the other, right? They're separate. Freemasonry it exists within the civic or community space. Christianity exists within the religious space. They serve different purposes. They relate to different things. There can be overlaps and parallels in that, Freemasonry, when it was developing its rituals, chose to borrow from some Christian theology and symbolism, but it borrowed from many different symbolisms and many different theologies. Um, Thank you, legend. All right, guys, I'll talk to you all soon. Please hit like again, please hit subscribe, and thank you all for being here. I'll talk to you all soon.